Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning, good morning.
How's Kevin on that mic there?
I'm fabulous.
Maybe
Nice.
push that one a little bit.
A little bit closer. Yeah.
Something's
Okay.
different today.
What's different today?
Something's different today.
Well, Kevin's here.
Yeah. Who's this guy?
Who's this guy?
Who am I?
Well, according to the badge, he's a recent attendee of R4 2020.
Absolutely.
I forgot my badge.
They want to let you in the marketplace?
They let me in, and I got the reminder last night to bring my badge today, but I forgot it. So
On we go.
yes, we do.
What are we talking about today?
We're gonna little perspective. Part of the reason Kevin's here today is he had joined us in R4 this year, and we just wanted to give a kind of a recap of what we learned today. We talked a little bit, or they talked a little bit about. They had a theme this year, and I'm interested to hear of our perspectives of the theme or perception of the themes were all the same, or if they're a little bit different. But kind of that, and some of the new things that we're learning, or that we learned, and also some of the new technology that's coming out.
Can I make an admission?
Sure.
I had no idea there was a theme.
Really?
Plug me in. Tell me what's going on.
Okay, Kevin, what do you think the theme was?
Embrace the change.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, I felt the exact same change to the whole concept behind the speakers. The underlying tone of the message was change, disruption,
And your storyline.
and your storyline. Yes,
All right.
and then
I see it.
from a
I understand now.
technology standpoint.
Well, if you would have made it to some of the...
Oh, easy now. Easy.
Excuse me, from some of the technology.
What happens in
standpoint,
Vegas stays in Vegas,
It
Mr.
does.
Doverspike.
But from technology, video, which we've been hearing that, we heard it earlier this year from Tom Ferry's convention, video. We heard more of it. Got some interesting stats that I was actually excited about. One of my favorite stats was kind of around what we're doing right now, the podcast world.
Yeah.
It is happening, but for those of you out there not doing the podcast, I'd have to say I'd recommend doing the podcast. That's probably a very untapped market right now.
Which was interesting because, I'll have to say, when, I forget what his name was, I think it was Mark, I don't remember his last name, but our CEO, Adam Contos, is kind of personal media guy, right?
Right.
What it comes down to. He said this is like the infancy of podcasting, yet he started his first in, I believe it was 2006 or 5, right around there.
2006. Yeah. It's been around for a while, I think.
Him and his mom.
Yeah, that was funny. That clip from the very first episode. But I think back in 2005, I think it was like Blog Talk Radio was one of the first ones to come out, which kind of started it back then. But some of the points that he made as far as it being in its infancy, being an infant, was that there, compared to all the other platforms, there are so few podcasts out there. But more importantly,
Such as the blogs and...
exactly. But more importantly, that there are the ones that are out there, very few people have kept them. Actually, there was a term, I forgot the term that he used. There's an actual term in the podcast
I don't
world.
recall what it was.
Pod fade or pods.
Pod fading.
Yeah, where you have an episode or 2 episodes and then that person or that podcast disappears.
I don't find that that interesting as to a different perspective for me, because it's like everything. It's like when we had to have websites, when you had to have a newsletter, when you had to have a website. You had to do these things,
Right.
but it's hard to keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like all the rest of the business, is if you're not out there doing it day in and day out, it fades and goes away, just
Sure.
like your farming and everything else.
Well, consistency. How many times did you hear that word this last 4 days?
Yeah, that's the key to what we do.
Yes. Want to be on Instagram? What's the key? Be consistent. Consistency in the story. Want to be on Facebook? Be consistent. Want to hold a podcast? Be consistent. Want a geographic farm? Be consistent.
What's difficult? Consistency,
Yeah.
right? Darren Hardy, give me enough time to compete, and he'll beat everyone because he can be more consistent. And that goes to the root of the issue
Right.
of sales and marketing, is that it's hard to sustain that over a long period of time.
Absolutely.
No today, no the next 6 times, it's the 7th time you get a yes.
You know what I thought was interesting was we talk about that we're in the infancy of podcasting, or that's what Mark had brought up. And yet, do you remember the number he said of how many podcasts are out there?
700,000.
7, yeah.
And I think of a number I have in mind is 175,000
Yeah.
podcasts are ongoing. There may be 1 million that have spawned,
Right.
Right.
but because of the fadeaway, it's 175. So you look at 100. To me, I look at 175,000. I think, my God,
That was small.
how would you? No, I thought, how do you sort through all those? But I guess the reality of it is yeah, that's.
Yeah, I
Not a
mean,
whole lot.
what weren't the numbers on the blogs? And there's 20 million, and
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
so I mean, in perspective, it's numbers games. But you look at it as the 80-20, and it's a little bit
Correct.
close to that again. Is only 175,000 of the 700,000 that are out there. There's podcasts, but you go look at them, and there's nothing
Yeah.
new in the last month or 2 or
Or
4
years.
or something. So that makes a big difference.
But the other thing that you factor into that as well is category.
Yep.
Because
Well, that's a good point.
we all
Yeah.
have our preferences of what categories we listen to in the podcast world, and so you take that number and you break it down even further. Of, in the real estate world, we're probably talking about a few hundred. Maybe we're in the 1,000. You break it down to consistent in our industry. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd be hard pressed.
It's tough. So you tell everybody to go do a podcast. I'm in the process of releasing mine in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin's talking real estate.
Congratulations.
We've been working
Shameless
diligently on that for a while. Isn't that what this is? I don't have a book, so But it's hard. It's complex, and you start thinking that you're going to do it, and then when you jump in, you find out that unless you know what you're going to do, it's not going to happen.
Takes a lot of patience. Yeah,
But the convention was phenomenal for me because Nestor, you and I have had numerous conversations on all the technology and how we do this and who's going to host and all this kind of stuff, and those questions that we had were answered.
Yeah, it reinforces a lot about what we've been pushing forward here
Yep.
in the office and encouraging everyone to do. And you're obviously one of the leaders in that here in the office.
Pioneer.
There you go. And so that's fantastic. And yeah, it's nice to go there and say, hey, I've done this, or I've given it a shot, or I'm starting to make that commitment.
Right.
And then to hear these people reinforce and say, it's all right.
Well, they've been.
I went through that too.
Yeah, they've been saying
I felt
it for
like it was
years.
going to end. I thought I was doomed, yet they get through
Right.
it. It's good to
Right.
hear that.
Yeah, and I mean, Bonbon, one of the suppliers out there, they're huge. They've been doing that for a long time. I've been working on and pulling together for 5 years.
Yeah.
And finally, it clicked in my brain what I was going to do, my pea brain. It took a lot to get in there. But it really is, and I'm excited about it because I just see all kinds of opportunity, and I'm lining up more and more people to help me with my Kevin's Talking Real Estate.
I like it. I'm part of the statistics. I did a podcast in 2005. Episode 1 is still out there. Episode 2, 3, and ongoing are missing, but episode 1 is actually still there. So
I don't want to. Who's
totally
hosting
get
that one? I don't want to use that.
Technology. Let's talk a little bit about technology. Kevin had brought it up a little bit when we were at convention, and this. It's funny because we were talking a little bit about. We hear it in our industry all the time with all the different companies, technologies coming out, and I felt like personally that we hadn't addressed it for a while, that we were kind of falling behind that curve.
Like Remax as a brand?
Yes. They really stepped up this
Oh.
year.
Blowing it up.
This is one of my favorite parts of our industry. I enjoy technology. I can't say that I'm super great at it, but I'm a little bit geeky when it comes to this stuff.
I've heard that in the halls.
Yeah, a little bit. And
Have you seen the geek?
they got me. They actually got my antennas up when they were throwing out some intros this year, and I was like,
Yeah.
hey, we hit it on that one. It's actually not just current, but actually ahead of the curve. My favorite, you were talking about it, we were talking about it on the drive home, Megaphone. One of my favorites, because we hear so often, I don't know how to advertise or market online with these social medias, with the, how do I run a Facebook ad, how do I run a YouTube ad, how do I run a Instagram ad or a Google ad or any of these things. And they spent a great deal of time and a great deal of money putting together a very simple platform that pulls all the content in, builds out templates for you, allows you to create customization in it if you want as well. So they get for those of us that are doing it already and are looking for more advanced, it's opened up to give you that. And for those that are just looking to plug and play, it's got that as well, and answered all the questions, because everybody, okay, I'm advertising and I'm marketing, but I'm not seeing the results.
Yes.
So they broke up the analytics on the back end, and you'll be able to see exactly where your ad's going and exactly how it's performing, and taking those results to be able to pass them on to your clients. And you're only going to have to do it once. The beauty of this is if I want to run an ad right now in Facebook, Google, we've connected to Wave now, Instagram. If you want to run an ad in all of these, you can actually pull your information from your MLS listing, create it. It will format it to the exact right size and put all the information in. So basically create 6 different ads for you, only entering the content once.
And getting it pushed.
Yeah, and then you just truly slide dial over, send it here, send it here, send it here, and it was done.
Yeah, and they're really simple, quick, and easy.
It is.
So maybe we can clarify that here real quickly. So there's what RE/MAX has brought to the table. So this is one of the ones that you're speaking of, right?
Correct.
So let's make that clear. So that's Megaphone.
Correct.
Which is a product that's available to every RE/MAX agent
Every RE/MAX
in the
agent.
network. So that was
Yes.
one
On Max
part.
Center.
It's on
And the
Max
other
Center now.
on Max Center, and then the other two that we'll probably touch on here at some point is Booge, which we've talked about before, which is a
Right.
contact management, transaction management platform that RE/MAX has rolled out, and then
Booge.
First, which they launched at the convention this year, which is going to be I guess analytics, is that the right word too?
That was an interesting one when they explained it to us the first time. Went over my head. I
me
actually
too.
missed it, and I had to go back. I had to go back 3 times to actually understand what they were doing. So we know out there, there's a lot of industries out there right now, like the core logics, that are claiming that they're reviewing the data and saying you can buy a community and saying these are the people in this community that are going to be the most likely to sell.
Yeah. So that one was the one that used to be something Zip.
There's several of them out there.
Yeah.
Core Logic is behind most of that. First is actually for your personal database.
That's what started to make sense.
Yes. So what it is that they've actually created the algorithms, and you upload your personal database into this algorithm, and First uses their algorithms to tell you who is most likely to make that sale or purchase within the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months.
The algorithm. What was the video? It wasn't an algorithm. It was a.
Oh, yeah.
The ad, the guy, the algorithm.
Yeah, they were
Whatever,
making.
I don't recall.
They were making fun of it, but yeah, I forgot what they had called it as well.
But this all goes back to, remember a number of years ago, everyone started talking about big data. What's big data? That's what we're talking about, right?
Correct.
They're scraping all the little tiny pieces of information to try to discover what the future holds.
Yeah, and what was interesting about First, so I was one of the first to be skeptic when these things come out on this data research thing, but this First was a company that RE/MAX acquired.
Yes.
So they've been around for a while. What they really shared with us were their numbers, and they were running about an 80%, I think the number was actually 78% success rate on whether, basically, they run a test case. This was a test case. this is how many things were in the test case, how many people were in the test case, and 78% of the time they were getting the information correct, where that person was actually buying or selling within that window of time frame. And so what the app does for you is it really categorizes your clients as who you should be speaking with most often and first.
So when it indicates an opportunity,
Yes.
7 to 8 out of every 10 calls that you make are going to be at the right time.
Correct.
And I mean, the conversion on that's got to be pretty high too.
Yes.
So imagine 10 calls, 50% of them happen or get the opportunity. That's still 3 to 4.
You're lucky to get
deals.
anything under 10%.
It's true.
Yeah,
True.
right?
3 to
Typically.
5. You know.
So I was excited about that one as well.
Yeah, once I understood it, when it first came out, like you said, I went, kind of over my head. And when they presented it, I was like, wow, okay, this is going to be a great tool.
Which goes right back to the very essence of our business and creating that database and, you know, who's in that center of influence for you, that sphere of influence for you, and really building that database. It's just a great tool that's going to be able to help the agents out. So
No question.
Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and then everything else, a lot of the breakouts and the sessions and everything really supported all of this,
Mhm.
you know, and
The
people's
thing-
experiences. You know what I think a little bit of, that I took away was you could have put a couple of those sessions together and had 4 or 5 influencers in social media or whatever it might be that we were discussing, and you're going to have 5 different opinions
Oh,
about
yes.
how to do it. And so my takeaway was you just need to do it.
Correct.
Like if you haven't done it yet, do it. You're not going to ask 2 people and they're both going to say, oh yeah, here, this is the path.
Right, right.
You need to find your own path. Now obviously that's what the convention's so wonderful about it, is the opportunity to hear victories and warnings about, hey, that I went down that path, that was difficult, you know, to help clear your path and make it a little bit easier.
Right.
But until you get started, you've got nothing. You got to give it a shot.
Which, in the very first breakout session that I went to, it was on video. And, you know, person number 1 that came up, bomb, that's all I do is bomb video this, bomb video that, this is how I do it, and this is my success. The second person that came up, on YouTube. This is what I'm doing on YouTube, this is how I do it. And, you know, for me, because again, I get into this geeky world, I start to take the whole thing and how can I incorporate it all, and then
Yeah.
it can't be done.
Yeah, someone actually said that, or heard, they said, I had bomb, I was trying to use it, I just can't use it because this, and the other. And so this is how I do it.
Right.
And
It's all
yet,
niche.
the person right before him was like, I won't use anything but bomb.
Exactly.
It's like a CRM, it's like,
Use the one that works for you.
just use it.
But there are so many different ways to capitalize or to, there is no, I don't believe that there is a best way to do video or a best way, for example, to do podcast or whatever it is, other than the fact that you're doing it
Mhm.
and trying to tweak that, whatever method you choose, you know. There were people talking, how many people did you walk into social media, and we're talking social media, and said, Facebook and Facebook only, and that's how I do it. No, Instagram and Instagram only, and that's how I do it. Stories and stories, it's got, and they weren't wrong. It was just which one is gonna be your medium.
Yeah. How about you, Kevin? What was your big takeaway? Or what struck you?
Well, I again, as I spoke earlier, I think the video confirmation for what I've been working on for 5 years and really putting into place here in the last few months, the confirmation, to hear the questions being answered, that I was going down the right path.
Yeah.
I'm not having to, oh wait, cut, let's go, let's gotta do something different. But that was very positive. You know, they did come up with another a mobile app. It looks like it's out and ready to go, but it's got a couple back end issues.
Is that the consumer search app?
Yep.
Yeah.
That, I'm going to say, I was amazed. I'm like, wow. Going from others that I've seen, from other brands and other providers, you know, I was never confident, like, this is really great. It's not
Right.
going to compete with the best. This app, it's competing with the best.
Yeah.
Right.
It's one of the best out there. It's amazing.
And
You're
that
right. It
is-
has a few steps to go, But a consumer can go on it today and
Right.
have an amazing search experience.
And Adam's testimonial that a few of the agents that downloaded their client base into it actually got listings while they were there.
Oh, wow.
So the success.
There is success to it. So. The favorite speaker?
All right, let's see. It's usually going to be opening or closing because those are the big ones, right? But a lot of times a session will strike you. I'm going to go with Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping, is that how you say it?
The
Our closing
yeah.
session. That struck me.
All right.
That was humorous.
I found
A lot of content in it,
Yes.
though.
There was the delivery when he first went out there. I'm thinking,
I felt like he was testing us almost, like the
Yeah.
material hadn't been tested.
but it came along
Very quickly.
full circle and actually came along and presented a very powerful message.
It was
to
very
us.
good. It was very good.
Yeah. Kevin, your favorite?
I like Les.
That's okay.
Well, there you go. Opening session.
Yeah. Well, he was really good.
Yeah.
He was really good. Really positive. What an attitude he has. I mean, what
Right?
a positive attitude. From being adopted, when he was 2 weeks old or 4 weeks old, and how he just really had the passion and love for his mom. How he was beat down by many people, not physically but verbally, that he wasn't worth anything, and how successful he has become, fighting through that and the other issues with his health and other stuff also.
Right.
So I mean it's always these conventions always, if you're there with an open mind, are going to get your passions out, your emotions out. And I think that's what I always take away, because you can't take away too many things. There's only a handful of items, and you're lucky to be able to take away 2 or 3 and implement them.
Yeah.
So to listen to these people and listen to these stories and listen to just the positive attitude, because as you sit in other meetings and you talk with other agents, so often we just hear the doom and gloom of the market. There's no listings and there's no buyers that like me, and so on and so forth. But the reality of it is you've just got to get out there and make your business. There's not a silver bullet. And RE/MAX is doing everything they can as a corporation to really give you the tools and be able to go out there. And that's why when I came on board with RE/MAX, they were the #1 brand, 13, 14 years ago when I started, when the last time you saw me in a suit. But #1 brand means a lot. And we're talking, we got 140,000 agents now out there in 100+ countries and territories. I mean, what a phenomenal company to be a part of. But the things that we do also, I always get choked up with the Children's Miracle Network.
Oh,
Yes.
man, they're good at that.
And the kids they bring out there, and the one that was so shy and timid, I met her in the marketplace, and I said, "Man, you were phenomenal," and just ear to ear was her smile. So
That's fantastic.
yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
That was the one that was afraid to be on stage.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that
Yep.
she admitted that she was afraid to be on stage.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was
Me
good.
too. Pretty sure everybody is just yeah.
Well, speaking about that, I don't want to jump off because Children Medical Network definitely deserves some attention. We focus on that really heavily at this office. But as you guys know, I love the International Referral Exchange.
Yes.
And it was off the hook this year. Did you guys make it over there?
I
did
was
not.
next to it,
Oh.
and I was a part of it because it was very loud. So the
Always
presentation I
is.
was at, I don't even remember what it was because we really couldn't hear much.
Sorry about that. Oh, I got
They were
there.
partying.
Yeah, I got there. I had to turn away rum from Puerto Rico and tequila from Mexico and beer from
You can only have like 3 or 4 of each, huh?
yeah, the party was going on.
How about if we start with what is the for those of us that, or for those of them that don't know?
Gotcha. So, okay. Every year at the convention, they have a couple-hour period where they have an area cordoned off, and all our international franchises, for the most part, are there to present who they are, where they are, what the opportunities are, and looking to make those referrals. And I think just a few years ago it was shocking to me. I mean, I went there and, I mean, what was it? Mongolia was there pitching investment and the towers they're building there. This year there was a Philippine presence that was really cool. And you just see people from all over the world, and you learn about how they're doing real estate and what they're doing, and the people are moving there. I mean, we're such an international community these days.
I feel like that international piece is very much like my open houses.
Yep.
Yes.
Everybody comes in, they're from everywhere.
Yeah.
And so,
Very
you know,
diverse.
I mean, we're a much smaller world than we used to be when you start looking at that perspective.
And I'll tell you, one of our agents was there for the beginning of the convention, but couldn't stay that late, and said, "Hey, I need someone from Turkey. I need someone in Istanbul." And so they were there. I grabbed a card from the owner in Istanbul and provided that to her today. So there's value there. I had a agent from another brand here in our marketplace call me up and said, "Hey, I need a referral in, I forget, I think it was the Dominican Republic." She said, "I'm having trouble." And she was with a big international brand. "Can you help me out?" I made the connection, provided her, followed up. She said, "Thank you so much. Yeah, I was absolutely able to make a connection with someone over there in the Dominican Republic, and I appreciate it." I mean, it's huge value. And with such an international community these days, people are moving. They're not just going around their towns. They're moving nation to nation. Right. So I just love it. They are so excited to be part of the RE/MAX brand and have the opportunity to share what they're up to. And they come ready to entertain you. And so, yeah, that's one of my favorite events of the
And
convention.
then entertainment, Foreigner.
Oh, yeah. No, Journey.
The Journey.
Journey.
Yeah.
Well, I was,
Concert.
I was from Journey.
That was an awesome concert.
That was pretty cool.
Overall, best convention I think I've been to are four. From
Many
the content
years.
that they put together to the entertainment. Overall, just fabulous. I enjoyed Journey, but what's fun about going to the concerts there is just we're in we're like maybe 50 feet off the stage
Oh yeah.
with
Well,
more
that's
room.
standing comfortable with no one touching you.
Unless
Yeah.
that's Michelle or Senka and they're on the stage.
They're on the stage, but realistically, we're 50 feet away. Maybe 100 feet at the most, and really, honestly, had more room than we have here
Oh,
between us, just because it's an exclusive event just for those.
So the
that are
venue
going.
holds what, about 15,000, 12,
About
15,000?
15,000.
And there's less than 5 there, so.
Yeah, actual concert, I'd probably say 2,500 maybe, 2,500, 3,000. So
Yeah, it was the most well-attended concert I've seen there in 10 years. I mean, it was packed. I love what they're doing. They've changed the schedule. I think
Yeah.
the changes they made have been wonderful. And not only did they have great breakout sessions, and the market pace was lively, and the training that they had there for their tools, but just the direction they're going
Right.
and what they're providing. They're listening. They're watching the market. And I mean, I really left there going, I am excited. I feel empowered and in possession of the tools that you
Right.
need to be successful out here in the market. And it was just a great feeling.
And if you're one of our agents and, I mean, you haven't been to one, you really should try to get to the next one.
absolutely.
Because it's a great opportunity to just also mingle with some of the folks in our office off pace.
Absolutely.
Having little dinners with them, special opportunities, just
Right.
talk and get to know each other a little bit better.
Absolutely. Kevin, I want to ask you a question because you mentioned when we started the conversation what the theme was, and you mentioned change. But I want to see if you got the same thing I did, because I heard change too, but I didn't really hear change from hey everybody, the market's about to change and we're about to crash or anything like that. I was hearing change from more of a disruption that's occurring from the iBuyer situations and things like that, and dealing more.
Well, I didn't, if I came off that everything's changing, well,
No, you
things are
didn't.
always evolving.
I was yeah.
But change, I think that they were, embrace it, take the opportunity to do something a little bit different, out of your comfort zone. Some of the presentations are getting yourself out of your comfort zone. That's when you really start to grow.
Mm-hmm.
If you really, if you're not having very many failures, you're not doing much business. You're not reaching. You're not pushing. because you're going to fail.
Right.
At certain things that you do, you just have to, you know, get up, walk, you know, do whatever you need to do, brush yourself off and make it happen.
Excuse me. So, if you're not having rejection, Travis's favorite speaker. Yeah. If there's not rejection going on, yeah. What are some of the ways
Then you're
that
not
we can-
pushing.
You're
Yeah.
not pushing, but you know, we decided that our next podcast next week is going to be specifically on rejection, and I didn't answer the question of what my favorite speaker was, and I honestly, I don't know if I can. You know, Kevin had come up to me for the second speaker. Darn it, I forgot his name. Shame on me. And Kevin had thought that I had no interest. He says, Nestor, I was looking at you and you had a dead stare, like blank look on your face, and didn't look like you were
Like you were
enjoying it."
hungover.
Yeah, like you weren't enjoying it at all. And it was actually just the opposite for me. I was so into what he was talking about in his presentation that I was zoned out of everything else. So just fabulous. Are you looking up his name?
Do you remember what
Oh,
the topic was?
He was talking about disruption.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, his whole conversation was basically.
He
about
was the
disruption.
poet.
You know, I walked into one, I got there a little early, and so they were wrapping up an earlier presentation, and it happened to be working as a commercial agent and using booze. That doesn't mean anything. Anyways, I was there, and he said something here that I think is right apropos to what you're talking about. They were talking about blockchain, and he said, no one here's asked me about blockchain. Does anyone want to know? And not that blockchain matters or anything, but the analogy he used I thought was fantastic. And he said, blockchain is to transactions what the internet was to information.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the type of change that we're talking about.
Exactly.
We're not talking about how is the market good or bad or where is it going to go, but I really feel that real estate's going through a very fundamental change.
Absolutely.
And if you're not on top of it, paying attention, and beginning to adjust your business to it, yeah, you're going to lose out faster than I've ever seen any change in real estate over the last 20 years that I've been in it.
Well,
Lose you, you know, it's just very interesting.
I looked at it as very simple. It was, you know, the message that I had gotten from there was the conversation. You know, Kevin hit on this earlier. You know, woe is me, this and that, the market, blah blah blah, and you know, this company's doing this company's doing that. When your mind shift changes to, I'm going to be the disruptor, and what is it that I can do in my business or our industry to be the disruptor
Yes.
to everyone else?
Sekou Andrews.
Sekou Andrews. Look him up. It's actually quite interesting. It was a very
Poet.
interesting, yeah. He his whole presentation was in poems for the most part. It was actually very interesting.
Nice.
But so I was looking at it from how and what is it that we're doing to be the disruptor. So if you're the agent in you know, if you're working a geographic farm, are you the source of disruption for your competition? And if you're not, you better make some
What
changes.
do you need to do to be
Yeah,
that?
because otherwise you're going to be spending all your time trying to catch up to everybody else and all of their disruptions that they're creating for you.
And Andrew's presentation was take it to the next level. So that's the change. You can't just sit and
Yeah.
let them all come to you.
Yep. There's a lot of that.
Loved it. Anything else we want to talk about today?
I think that was good, man.
Did
So
you-
close, right there in Las Vegas.
We were fired up. I don't know if you can tell. I'm still a little bit amped up. Stayed up late last night, going through my notes, recapping, looking at some stuff, and you know, Kevin, I think I know the answer to this. What's the first thing? Although this is kind of a loaded question, maybe I should be asking, what's the second thing that you're going to implement? Because I feel like for you, you had actually implemented or started to implement something in the convention reinforced.
Right. Oh yeah.
So, my initial question was gonna be, what one thing are you going to implement first? But I think I got that answer already.
Yeah, I mean, it's complex. I mean, the podcast is all-encompassing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not one thing, one topic. It's Kevin's talking real estate, from lenders to title to home warranties to, you know, whatever we're dealing with in the industry, inspections and stuff. Try to give people some content out there that will make sense for them, and to give a bit of a story,
Mm-hmm.
so that I'm marketing 24/7.
All right. Travis, same question?
I think that I'm going to start paying attention to how I handle rejection. So right back to my favorite one, the closing session was so interesting to me, and he made me think, how do I handle rejection? You know, do I fight or flight, or do I different? So one of the things I want to do is pay attention to how I handle rejection or failure,
Mm-hmm.
so I know who I am now, and I want to improve upon that based on what he presented there. It was a very powerful presentation.
That was a big mind shift for me. It was, so role play
That'd be
this
one of the
morning.
books that you're going to review? You're
Yes,
gonna be reading this?
absolutely. And it was, you know,
I got to tell you what the name of it is.
Kevin was in role play this morning. So one of the examples he gave was actually knocking on a door with a plant. He was looking for rejection. So the whole premise was that he had set himself up to be rejected 100 days, or he had 100 items that he was doing that were set up to be rejected so that he could get used to it. And on this particular one, he was knocking on a stranger's door with a plant in his hand, and the goal was to plant this plant in that person's backyard, and he simply was knocking on a stranger's door, can I plant a plant in the backyard? And in his story, he got a yes. Well, I presented that today. I asked the same question in role play, and there was 6 people in the room today at
Yeah.
role play. I got a yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And it actually struck me as kind of odd. I sat there and I was all like, huh. I was expecting everybody to say no. And one of the people, in his example, he gives it the reason the person said no to him was because they had a dog, and their dog was digging up the
Anything in the backyard.
So, but he ended up getting a referral from it. That person had directed him to somebody who would appreciate it. Well, my yes today, she says, her answer was, well, I'm allergic to that plant. And so my response, well, I have different plants in the car. So I ended up getting a yes out of that. But what was interesting to me is just the whole point of creating that we go into this whole thing thinking we preconceive what the answer is going to be,
Yep.
and preconceive why the answer is going to be. And my big takeaway is learning to ask more of why and getting a better understanding of why.
Let's not go
people are
too
saying
far down that road, because we're going to dive deep dive
into it.
on that
Yeah,
next
I'm looking
week.
forward to that. Yeah. So, anything in closing?
Nope. Except be prepared next week for
Great convention. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us, Kevin. It
Kevin
was-
talking real estate.
You know what?
Kevin
Good
Talks
plug out.
Talks in
Kevin's
real estate.
talking real estate.
We will
Podcast.
We will throw that out and make sure you guys keep an eye out for that. I'll close on. There has been, for those of you in our office that see this, Mr. Ryan Papero threw out an offer to everybody that's worth mentioning. For those of us who are objecting to financially, giving that objection of financially, I just can't make it to convention next year. Ryan has thrown it out that he is going to, one lucky person will get room and board taken care of for them on him. So we'll have to keep an eye out for more details on that, but trying to do what we can do to help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so next week, failure, rejection, how to handle it,
Yes,
the ins and outs.
absolutely.
Jia Jing inspired it.
Is that your point? It was from the rejection.
Right? Oh. Can Can I fly your plane?
Can I fly your plane?
All
Surprised
right.
at the answer. Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Have a fantastic week.
Onward and upward.
Onward and upward.